Advergames were pretty popular during the 90s. These were games who were packaged as a fun time, but whose sole purpose was to actually get you to purchase another product. Generally, in terms of form, they would resemble other titles that were popular at the time, giving their own capitalist take on side-scrollers like Mario or top-down RPGs like Pokemon. And some of these titles are actually quite adored, despite their shameless pandering. So today we're taking a closer look at these games with our list of the top 10 video games that are just ads. Starting us off in at number 10, Cool Spot for 7-Up. Most Advergames make use of their company's mascot, typically as the game's protagonist. So when 7-Up decided to release a game for the Sega Genesis and the Mega Drive, they went with their brand's mascot, Cool Spot, as the playable character. He's a red spot with sunglasses who has hands and feet. How charismatic. A single-player platformer, which is a bit of a trend with these 90s Advergames, you'll notice. Cool Spot runs, jumps, and attacks enemies by throwing soda bubbles at them. You need to collect spots as you progress, and if you collect enough, you unlock a bonus stage of that level. You can also collect letters that spell out the word Uncola, which was 7-Up's slogan at the time. The best part was, the game actually got ported to a bunch of different systems, and then it got a sequel called Spot Goes to Hollywood, an isometric game that was horrifically difficult to play, and was highly criticized for being super monotonous. Up next, number 9, World Gone Sour. World Gone Sour is one of the more recent games on our list. Published in late 2011, this giant playable ad for Sour Patch Kids candy puts you in the gummy shoes, or feet, of a green Sour Patch Kid who wishes to be eaten after he falls out of his package of Sour Patch Kids at the start of the game. Aside from having a very masochistic concept, the game has some serious Little Big Planet vibes, and you can actually recruit other Sour Patch Kids to help you as you go. It got mediocre reviews, with most people being frustrated that the cost of the game, which was $5, wasn't worth how short the game was, and that despite having good mechanics, grim humor, and entertaining cutscenes, it really just felt like a glorified commercial. In at number 8, Koolaid Man. Who doesn't want to run around as the Kool-Aid Man and shout, "Oh yeah," at your screen while you do it? Well, apparently Kool-Aid saw the potential there and crafted a game with Mattel for the Atari 2600 where you could do exactly that, sort of. Initially only available through mail order, the game didn't allow you to play as the Kool-Aid Man at first. Instead, you play as two children walking through a house, of an immense size may I add, to find Kool-Aid and drink it, all while avoiding touching enemies who could move around through the walls and floors. And drinking the Kool-Aid wasn't all that rewarding, although once you've completed your task and have consumed all of the Kool-Aid in the house, the Kool-Aid Man bursts out through a brick wall in all of his weird pixelated glory. Only then have you unlocked playing the Kool-Aid Man, whose goal it is to catch the flying fruit passing through the house, which you're also able to pass through, like the walls and the floor and whatnot, which kinda made the house a little irrelevant at that point in the game. But hey, who said you had to put effort into crafting a video game? Not when it's an ad. And at number 7, Yo Noite. The Noite is perhaps one of the weirdest food mascots out there. If you were alive back in 1987, you may remember this strange little man creature character was the mascot for Domino's Pizza, which used the tagline, "Avoid the Noite." The Noite was supposed to be a physical manifestation of all the challenges that come with getting a pizza delivered in 30 minutes or less, apparently. I mean, it doesn't seem like there would be that many challenges in getting that to happen, just saying. He would go out of his way to thwart your delivery, but always failed. So playing this character who is fated to always be a failure is exactly what you would want from a video game, right? At least not on that intellectual level. He ain't no Hamlet, that's for damn sure. Anyways, Yo Noite was yet again another 2D platformer, and instead of being the bad guy this time, the mayor of New York calls up the Noite to get him to stop his evil duplicate, and in exchange his reward is a massive pizza. The game, just like many others on this list, was pretty awful, but on the flip side of that, quite literally, you got a $1 Domino's coupon on the back cover of the instruction manual. Silver lining? Up next, number 6, Chester Cheetah, Too Cool to Fool. Do you love Cheetos? Is Chester Cheetah your idol? Do you want to collect Cheetos and play video games? Then Chester Cheetah Too Cool to Fool is the game for you. The slickest, coolest cat with tood is who you control in this game. Chester plays guitar, Chester rhymes unnecessarily, and Chester acts super duper cool. It's by no means a good game, but for those invested in the novelty and the nostalgia, it's kind of entertaining at least. You also get to control Chester on a weird motorized skateboard at some point too, so woo! And at number 5, MC Kids. It should be no surprise that in its history, McDonald's at one point released an Advergame. Not that it's ever really needed the promotional help though, or at least it didn't back in 1992 when it came out. Initially made for the NES, you play as one of two children, or both in two-player, who venture into McDonald Land, a fantasy world in which they must return Ronald McDonald's magical bag that was stolen by the Hamburglar. Created by 4 people over the course of 8 months, it surprisingly received decent scores from critics, with one critic from GamePro even stating that it had some great features that Mario, which it was clearly inspired by, lacked. In at number 4, America's Army. It's not just blatant product placement that Advergames can be used for. Video games have also been used as a recruitment tool in the past, too. Such is the case with America's Army, a first-person shooter game that was published in 2002 by the US Army as a strategic communication device that allowed players to experience what being in the Army was really like, sort of. It was the first use of game technology that the US military had ever used, and it was highly criticized by some to be propaganda for the Army, despite also receiving really strong reviews and awards for how well crafted it was. There have also been a handful of sequels too. And at number 3, Darkened Sky. Darkened Sky is an attempt at banking off of the fantasy RPG genre by crafting an advergame that features some not so subtle product placement. What product does it shamefully boast? Skittles. Yep, because seamlessly integrating Skittles into an RPG quest is something that totally works. Essentially, you collect Skittles in order to unlock your magical abilities. It's also really painful. The story follows a girl named Sky who is searching for her mother throughout a fantasy realm, and apparently its concept was inspired by the Skittles Taste the Rainbow commercials. I think that was its first mistake. When the game was finished, Simon & Schuster, one of the companies behind it, considered taking the Skittles out of the game altogether, but the Skittles were so ingrained in the game's script that they just couldn't. Despite this, they decided to not have any mention of Skittles on the box art for the game, which almost made it weirder for those purchasing it without having any idea that it was a giant ad. Imagine getting the game, popping it into your computer, starting to play, and then finding Skittles in it? Just weird. And at number 2, Sneak King. Sneak King may not be the most diverse game out there in theory, but in execution, it is absolutely hilarious. You play the King, Burger King's mascot, being the ultimate super creepy creep, sneaking around delivering unsuspecting hungry people food from Burger King, in a sort of spy vs spy style game, except creepier. You fail if an NPC is alerted by your presence, and it's just so damn good. Now, as much as most people knock this game, it did serve a purpose. Burger King's sales increased by 40% after the game was released. It also sold millions of units despite receiving poor reviews from critics. But like, come on, can you blame it for doing so well? How could you not want to play this? It's so dumb. And last but not least, in at number 1, Pepsi Man. If you thought Sneak King was ridiculous, Pepsi Man just tops that. It just like takes a concept and then just makes it so weird. So for context, back in the mid-90s, Pepsi created a mascot for its Japanese corporate branch that was designed by a Canadian comic book artist. This mascot's whole shtick was to show up whenever someone was thirsty. Pepsi Man, which was his name, would appear and give them a drink to quench their thirst. Despite being ever so slightly creepy with no actual facial features and also a total ripoff of the Silver Surfer minus the surfboard, Pepsi Man would go on to get his own video game, having appeared in the arcade game Fighting Vipers prior to his own title, where his ability was to quench one's thirst. Each of the stages in the Pepsi Man game had you controlling the hero, saving a person who was in need of a drink, dodging obstacles as you made your way to a vending machine where you would drink a Pepsi yourself, which I guess is somehow saving people, and this was all to the constant tune of Pepsi Man. Surprisingly, critics didn't hate it, although they did comment on how weird and bizarre it was. It also had a really absurd opening that implies the entire game takes place inside of a Pepsi can, a can that a dude gets from a vending machine and drinks most of before realizing that the Pepsi Man, I suppose the whole digital world inside the can, exist. And I don't know about you guys, but that leaves me with a lot of questions about what that dude just drank. The game also ends with the same man who has clearly consumed an unsafe amount of Pepsi throughout the duration of the game and its cutscenes. Pepsi Man! Alright, there we have it, friends. Have you guys ever tried out any of these games or other Advergames? If so, which ones were your favorites? And which ones did you totally despise? Let us know in those comments below. If you dug this video, hit that like button, and don't forget to subscribe to Top 10 Gaming for all things video games, from lists to news to updates and more. In the meantime though, thanks for watching everybody. I'll catch you all in the next video.